Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I hope everyone is doing okay this evening. I've had a mess of shows all day. I've been going for like 30 something hours, so I have one more show after this that I want to get to, and then I'm probably going to call it quits. Let me check my sound, make sure my sound is okay before I go into it. So this one is a little interesting. I have a tip-off from there we go. Good. If you guys like what I'm putting down, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. Of course, you can always put the Patreon and all that good stuff. So recently, the Young Turks went through a firing, a mass layoff. Included was Nomiki Kans and Hannah being the big name front people who were a part of that particular layoff. This was somewhat of a shocking thing. I mean, Nomi was kind of all over the place from the and I mean that in a good way, meaning she was ubiquitous in the network. But they cut her loose nonetheless, in addition to 5 other people who were somewhat behind the scenes. I have one question, and then I have somebody who's close to the company. She told me that I don't know how much of this is actually flat fact true, but keep the information within the context of what's taking place, and it kind of somewhat makes sense. That there were monetary issues, and that from the monetary issue standpoint, how can I say it? Let's say there were overpromises to investors. Essentially, this inflation of the number of people who are associated signed up. And with that overpromise to investors, there was a gap that was created. Meaning, this is what the expectation versus this is what we can deliver. And with that particular gap that was created, they had to close it. Some people were leaving because of the vote Hillary stuff. Some people were leaving because of all of the influence on Trump. But ultimately, that gap had to be closed. And the way that they were trying to close the gap was essentially throw people overboard and firing some of the people. The 5 people and the other people who were associated with it. Meaning Nomi, Hannah, and the few other people who were involved in the process. The people who were leaving probably had a contract, meaning it was a severance, so they couldn't necessarily say anything about it and bring it up. What was clear, especially in the statement from Nomi, was she did not necessarily want to go. She seemed heartbroken by the whole thing, saying that this was the best job that she's ever had. My heart actually goes out to her. There's something to be said about somebody doing a job that they love. Like, they're in a particular position where they're ideologically intact and they're doing their thing. That's an awesome thing. So I feel for on that one. I guess my point is 2 points. Within the context of what I said, meaning the standpoint of the source, making the point of the company was having financial issues and trying to solve those financial issues by throwing people overboard. That does somewhat make sense. Because otherwise, how on earth do you get rid of Nomi Kans? And that just seems like such a high-profile person to get rid of. And yet, if you need to close some kind of gap, it does kind of make sense. Again, take it with a grain of salt. I don't necessarily know it as a flat fact. Sources can be wrong. But that does lead to 2 other questions. The company had $20 million, and the company took $2 million of user money for the reporters. Nomi is gone. Andrew Jones is gone. Naomi LaChance is gone. Ryan Grimm, I think, is still there. And I think David Sroda is still there. But if I'm not mistaken, Dilla Radigan is gone. And I don't know about Sean King. What did the people pay for? What did the people pay for? Where did all the money go? Meaning, if you didn't have enough money for the reporters, even though supposedly the users paid for those reporters, what about the $20 million bucks? I guess I'm asking this just basic run-of-the-mill question of what did the users pay for when they were having all those fundraisers? I remember this. Where is it? There were fundraisers like every other day, and those fundraisers lasted until the company hit their $2 million. Right here. TYT reaches 2 million fundraising goal. Yes. Right. That's awesome. This is May 2017, and 1 year later, many of these people are gone. The TYT network, the largest online news politics network, announced today it has completed its $2 million crowdfunding campaign to hire political, culture, and sports reporters Andrew Jones, well, he's gone, to join the growing team of investigative journalists and news commentators. Prior to joining TYT, well, fair enough. I'm more so concerned about the TYT launches crowdfunding campaign December with the goal of keeping the Trump administration and establishment politicians accountable through true investigative journalism. At each key fundraising milestone in the campaign, the Young Turks have announced a new team of reporters and commentators, including Dill Radigan, Ryan Grimm, I think he's still there, Nomiki Kantz, she's just gone, Sean King, I don't know about Sean King, but I think he's gone, Michael Tracy is, I think he's in a basement somewhere, Jonathan Larson, David Sirota, Naomi LaChance, she's gone. This campaign has showed us that there's a great wave coming, a populist progressive wave that demands accountability, transparency, and authenticity. Fair enough. I'm just asking a basic question. Please give us money for reporters. Here's the money for reporters. Thank you for that money for reporters. We're firing those reporters. It's been 1 year. I'm not going to keep this long. I'm just asking. I'm just asking. Let's see. LI is in fact a form of neo-televangelism. Here today, gone check cashing tomorrow. No, that's Rachel Maddow. That is Rachel Maddow, by the way. Maybe Jordan's network grows from this. Maybe. I mean, he is trying to grow it. How are those Justice Democrats doing across the country? I don't know. I mean, apparently, I thought they won one or two of the races. I thought they won a few races. I didn't think they were held out. Don't give kindling to the people who want to start a fire. I love that. I fucking love that. I always said Justice Democrats was a terrible name. John Smith, Justice Democrats is a terrible name. I hate that name. You have the burden of the Democrat label on you, and you're trying to get lefties to vote for you. There are some lefties in the TYT audience that will vote for him lock stock just because it's associated with TYT. But you also have a lot of people who are pissed off at TYT for one, but also at the Democratic Party, and the idea that Democrats is in the name is going to cause an issue. That being said, I think their issue was also you have a lot of other people who don't know anything better than voting for Democrats. But I guess the point is you can still run as a Democrat even as you're a Justice Democrat. Justice Democrat is what you're calling yourselves. You're running as a Democrat in the Democratic Party. You could have named yourself something else. I understand what you're saying. My point is nobody by chink is getting anything over at TYT. Now that I don't know. I mean, look, there are two things that's possible. Either the source is right and they're running through money trouble And that money trouble is enough where they would throw off their reporters and flagship reporters. And including, the people I named. Andrew, Nomiki. Or the other thing is true, where they're restructuring themselves, where they just don't care about the reporters. Which again brings up this question of what happened to the money. Did the money only last for a year? And did they tell people that their money was only going to last for a year before they took the job? If they're getting rid of reporters, fair enough. Now, their statement had something about restructuring. Let's just go right here. Where's it right here? It says, TYT has continued to see tremendous growth in audience size and engagement, as well as business partnerships and sponsorships. From time to time, we are faced with difficult decisions as we grow in our larger size, influence, and reach. But it looks like if you're growing in size, it looks like you're not firing people when you're growing. That seems like the opposite. We truly respect our colleagues as people and professionals, which makes the personnel changes difficult even when necessary to move the company to the next phase of evolution. What I've heard was, when in this business, apparently, when you put a statement out like that, oftentimes this statement, this idea of difficult decisions when you grow and all this other stuff, personnel changes, this to some degree is somewhat code for we need to mend the gap. Here's a bit of irony, by the way. Take a look at this. I don't think TYT is circling the drain, but there's a certain bit of irony to hear John Adirola say this when it could be applied to TYT, apparently.
Future of that network, if it even has a future. There's a mismanaged. Insider sources at Glenn Beck's The Blaze Network have painted an extremely grim picture about the future of that network, if it even has a future. There's mismanagement of money, mismanagement of people, paranoia and personality problems, and a lot of the employees who used to work there, who have been let go, thanks to the massive layoffs that have apparently been happening over the past few years, are painting a picture of that you can put this on Glenn Beck, that it's mainly due to his ridiculous personality quirks that were obvious to all of us before the network even launched.
If you replace Glenn Beck with Cenk Uygur and you're talking about TYT, I remember that very specific video because I remember as I watched it, the Blaze did go down the drain. It did fall down the toilet in the way Cenk was talking about that the thing was going to go down. But I think it's funny now that the same thing is kind of being said about TYT, where insider sources are saying similar things about the network having money trouble and how the network is cutting resources and firing people due to some level of mismanagement. And then the question becomes, where's the cash? Where's the beef? Where's the 2 million? So I'm not going to keep this. There is not much to say about this one. This is just a question that's lingering. What happened to the $2 million that was supposed to be to hire the journalists if you've let go many of the journalists? Where's the cash? Where's the money? Where's the cash? What I want to know is where the TYT affiliates like Jimmy and Cal going to publicly disagree with Anna over North Korea the same way they go after Maddow, Captain Oblivious. You trying to stir up some trouble, Captain Oblivious. You trying to stir up some trouble. Not going to keep this long. Everyone take a drink. Fed Hacker, Danny Knapp. I used to like John. He had a I didn't see the next part. Cenk Uygur net worth in 2018 is $18 to 22 million. I thought you said $18.22. I was like, oh, that's bad. That's messed up. I don't know if Cenk Uygur's worth is 18 million. Where are you getting that from, DC? I don't know where you're getting that from. They burn through the cash because they know nothing about investment so. Again, I don't know where it is. I'm not speculating what took place with the cash. I'm just asking, where's the cash? I thought that the whole point of raising the money from the crowd, the $2 million, was to pay for the journalists. Great. So Nomiki should still have a job. But she does not. And it didn't seem to be a situation where Nomiki left. It seemed to be a situation where Nomiki was kicked out. Get the hell out of here. That type of stuff. So what did the audience pay for? So there's a Seinfeld episode where Seinfeld had a maid. The woman would come and she would, supposedly do the maid of the house. He would pay her and she would go about her way. And he starts having a sexual relationship with the maid. And he would have sex with her. He would pay her and she would leave. And he's like, what did I just pay for? That's kind of like this. Like, what did I just pay for? Well, right. And I'm giving Garden credit for this. So Garden had said this for like a year. When I first started my channel, Garden was like, dude, it's the money. It's the money. The money is being, they're gonna fundraise. They're gonna take the money. Garden has been saying this for a year. Garden, I have to take my hat off to you, sir. I have to take my hat off to you. Harlan Sinclair, I think Nomiki is pregnant. Why do you think that? Why do you think that? Where are you getting that from? Harlan, you slide dog. I know, right? He's the only one that would know. The Wolferson, I can't believe people give the scum their hard-earned money. They're hacks and liars. They probably stole the money. That's a bit strong. That's a little strong. That's a little strong. Garden has been right. Yeah, Garden was right. I'm okay with saying it. Garden was right. Seen her lately? She's been fired. Harlan, she's been fired. She wasn't pregnant. They weren't hiding her away because she had a baby. She was fired. He was like, she's pregnant. Have you seen her lately? No. It's not like you're on a television show where it's like the woman is wearing like these big clothing and everything else because they're trying to hide it for the character. She would have no reason to hide the fact that she's pregnant at all. Why would she hide it? Why would she hide it? By J. Oh God. Isn't it technically being laid off? Yeah, it is. I don't mean fired I'm sorry. I don't mean fired with the negative connotation. I just mean they were laid off. They had multiple people that were laid off at the same time. Yeah, I don't mean the negative connotation as in they were fucking up and fired. I just mean that Jen laid them off. Haha, the maternity plan at TYT is you're fired. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. Doesn't TYT generate any funds? PAC? Yeah, as far as I know, they do. They have membership. They have investors. They've been making these deals left and right with these businesses apparently for like the thing with YouTube. So yeah, and they have people who pay them money apparently. So yeah, they have money. They have cash. He keeps asking the same question I keep answering. You're trying to say that the money is gone, Garden. They got the boot. You can say it. One more time. Nomiki was a DNC liaison. She's headstrong and mouthy. Mouthy is fucking with me, Garden. They didn't need a DNC liaison anymore. They have direct connections to the DNC party bosses. I know, Garden, but where's the money? Like, I know what you're saying. I'm trying to make a larger point, Garden, and you're kind of missing my point. They raised $2 million. And in raising the $2 million, that was hard-earned money that their fans and so forth gave them, Nomiki was the first person, the first journalist that they hired onto the team. Whether she's quote-unquote mouthy, which comes across as a little sexual, and maybe that's in my head, but mouthy just comes across a particular way. But she was the first person they hired. Well, the audience thought they were hiring somebody, and they fired that person who the audience thought they had hired. Now, I'm not necessarily saying they were going to hire her in perpetuity for the rest of her life, but I don't necessarily think the audience thought that within a year or two, they would be giving her the boot. I am trying to make a larger point. I get you think you're answering the question, Garden. That's your perspective of events. I get it. But whether that's true or not, even if everything that you're saying there is true, the audience hired a journalist. They hired her. It's like she's all of a sudden gone. They paid Nomiki $250,000 for 1 year. How do you know? Oh, but it wasn't just Nomiki. They didn't pay Nomiki $250,000 for a year. It was multiple journalists that they hired. It was like 4 or 5. Frank Nitt said, little with talking and heavy with the mouth. Let's drag this on. Independent outsider. Nomiki disagreed with the TYT staff, perhaps fighting the TYT authority. TYT authority. I don't know what that means. Whatever Chunk pays himself is 100% too much. He should be paying people for polluting the internet. I guess you feel a particular way about Cenk Wolfson. I guess you feel a particular way about Cenk. Yeah, I don't know. All I heard was there were money issues, and those money issues had something to do with, again, all of this is just insider information, if you want to call it that way. I feel weird saying it because that's all. It just feels strange. Feels surreal saying that you have, you get information this way. But that there was money issues, and that those money issues needed to be essentially liquidated to some degree, which means they needed to get rid of certain staff. Not so much that they wanted to get rid of certain staff, but they didn't have somewhat of a choice to get rid of that staff because they had to mind the gap. That's what I heard. Now, I understand you have your idea of what's taking place, Garden. And look, they're not mutually exclusive. For the most part, you may look around and say, okay, who can we throw overboard in order to mind this gap? In which case, your idea of the case, may be valid. Cenk will come out with an explanation for it. Question is, will we believe him? Wes Clark Jr. has made several statements about TYT living it up off donations. Yeah, but Wesley Clark Jr. is not wrapped all that tight at this point. I mean, have you heard some of the stuff he's been saying? He's all over the place. You can't use him as a... Yeah. Wesley Walker Jr. reminds you of the Clinton Foundation a little bit. Oh, it's not that bad. You guys are acting like this place is a slush fund. I don't think it was mounds of money. Like, you guys are acting like the $2 million was mounds of cash. I don't know. I have no idea. Wesley Clark Jr. is nuts, though. Yeah, he's not wrapped tight. At this point, he's a little off. Why wouldn't Dan rather be the first to get the axe? Then, if this is about money, no one gives a rat's ass about Dan Rather. They may not know that. You're acting like you know that as somewhat of a flat fact. How do you know they know that? How do you know they know that? They may think of Dan Rather as stability, a great newsman in a time where they need great newsmen in order to go against Donald Trump. You have no idea their perception from the standpoint of what Dan Rather is to the company itself. And Garden may be right. They may look at it as Nomiki has been more so a political act, a political advocate or political functionary, and we don't necessarily need a political functionary right now, especially if we're tightening our budgets. I believe it or not, I'm more inclined to agree with Garden on this. Dan Rather, I would see them keeping Dan Rather at this point more so than Nomi. Even though I think all things being equal, they would rather keep Nomi also. Just my thoughts. Anybody else notice how much Dan Rather looks like Professor Proton from the BBT? That's wrong, Gord. That's so wrong. They don't spend it on Dan Rather. Fucking sound. Dan Rather's fucking sound. Titus Aurelius, TYT audience will believe anything Cenk says and will blindly defend anything he does because it's a cult or personality thing at this point. I'm a little tired of compromising progressive values 100% or go fuck yourself. I don't have this thought of 100% go fuck yourself. I think some of the people in my audience do. I don't have that perspective. I think Wes has been under direct surveillance since he was a kid. He's the son of a NATO commander. Some of his paranoia is probably justified. Essentially, just because you're paranoid doesn't necessarily mean people aren't actually out to get you. I feel you. Whatever it takes, yes. Hire Abby Martin back. Abby Martin was awesome. Abby Martin was absolutely awesome. I didn't know they had hired her though. I thought she was just like a contributor on the network. Some of us in the audience do. It's funny. All right, I have one more video that I want to do, and I don't want to spend a huge amount of time on essentially an insider tip, even though it's a decent insider tip. It's pointing to somewhat degree of chaos in the company itself. So, nevertheless, and by the way, I don't want to see the company go bust. I know some people feel some kind of way about it. I just wish they were better. That's all. I just wish they were better. So, I'll leave it here. If you guys enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe. Of course, you can always support the patron. The next video I have up is going to be the debate between Ocasio-Cortez and Crawley. Somebody pointed me to it, so I'm going to go through it. I'm going to recount it. I haven't seen this, so I am going to look at this with my audience. I had a hard time finding this debate, and so people were nice enough to actually send it to me. By the way, also, I'm going to be on Fault Lines with Ken, what is his name? Stranahan and Glenn. Garland Nixon and Lee Stranahan. Lee Stranahan I've seen before. Garland Nixon looks familiar to me like nobody's business, and I think I know who he is. But they've invited me to come down to the radio station in Washington D.C. Apparently, Garland likes the show, so I thought that was awesome, and that is so badass. So I told him I will be there at 8 in the morning. That is going to be brutal for me because I'm going to have to drive 2 hours in order to get to DC, and I'm probably going to have to leave that much earlier because of rush hour traffic. But I'm not going to cry at you guys a river on this. I'm going to be on Fault Lines. Yeah, so there's that. So I will leave it here. I will see you guys shortly with the debate with Ocasio-Cortez. I like saying her name, Ocasio-Cortez. And Crawley. Thanks, guys.